Hey guys, I'm gonna hijack one of Sean's videos again. Um, I'm just gonna leave a link to the actual video inside the description, and I'll go grab another video. It may take me a couple minutes because I've got to go find it. But this video from Sean, and then the next video is um, Gary Wayne, and he's explaining how the knighting stuff works, like as far as the Luciferian side of the knights and whatnot. So that video will be inside the description. So let me show you this real quick.
Hey everybody, Sean here, and I hope you're doing well. Chris Reed is who we're looking at today, so let's jump right in. If you aren't familiar with Chris Reed, this is him, and he's the senior pastor at Morningstar Ministries. Morningstar may sound familiar, and that's because Rick Joyner was the senior pastor there before he passed on the role to Chris. You know, Rick Joyner, who joined the Knights of Malta, that secret society that many view as occultic and has ties to Catholicism. You know, that group. The Rick Joyner that spent 8 hours in heaven with God and got a promotion and told us that God needs friends. That was with Sid Roth, by the way.
Did you guys notice that the backdrop?
The Rick Joyner that spent 8 hours in heaven with God and got a promotion and told us that God needs friends. That was...
Look at this. It's two arboretums, and they're being held up by 4 pillars apiece, and there are 8 pillars in the design of the Shekinah, the Kabbalistic house where the sun is housed, the sunshine is housed. So interchangeably they do this. If you go and watch Rick Joyner's stage, you're going to end up seeing that there is a brick wall, Freemasons brick wall, with the pillars sitting up on top of them. I don't remember if you can see all 8 of the pillars or not. I think there's only 6 of them visible, but that means that they're still trying to make an octagon out of the pillars. That's their objective on the stage show.
With Sid Roth, by the way.
But, it blows my mind. I can see us humans looking for friends. It's hard for me to fathom. God, would you say he's desperate for this friendship?
He said he didn't have many friends. And that's what shocked me.
The Rick Joyner that supported heretic Todd Bentley. Yeah, so this is the man that Chris Reed associates with and has replaced as a senior pastor. Chris...
Okay, hold on a second. This is what got me interested, is all of these guys that are the NAR leaders. I'm not going to say every single one. About 80% of the pastors and false prophets, like these guys say that they're prophets, they all wear jewelry on their right hand. And so this guy got me interested. So I went and checked. So this is Chris Reed's Facebook page. 97,000 followers. But you click on this, and it's a real sharp picture. See that cross with those other 4 crosses around them? Let me see if I can get a... This is an interesting logo I just came across on going through Chris Reed's page. Notice how on the right hand side there is a peak, mountain peak, and on the left hand side there's a mountain peak, and then in the middle would make the 3rd mountain peak. Those 3 chevrons together would equal 666. It's inside the magic circle, this being called Eagle Mountain, heaven on earth. This is Kabbalistic heaven on earth because God's will being done in heaven as it is on earth is talking about following the Torah. So the black cube right there is Saturn worship. And see how there's on the eagle, you could say that that's maybe the beak, but Rob Skiba pointed out that historically anytime there's an eagle with a cowlick on it, that the cowlick eagle means that it represents Lucifer, because it's not actually an eagle, it's a phoenix. So it's a Masonic phoenix, and it has the regenerative where it dies and comes back. The bodies of the upper Freemasons, the ascended masters, those bodies die. The person that has Lucifer inside of him right now, that channels Lucifer, his body will die. And then Lucifer will possess somebody else. That's the rebirth of the Phoenix. That's the whole secret of the 33rd degree of Freemasonry. There we go. We got a cleaned up version. So you can see the cross with the 4 crosses around it. See that Roman numeral 3 up in the top corner? They're going to say it's for encounter, but that Roman numeral 3 is the 3 first degrees of Freemasonry. Notice how there is a 3-fold flame on the logo. Hold on one second. So that D with the 3 flames comes from the publishing company that is called Destiny Image. What does the Bible say? Make no graven images. The same as what's Benny Hinn's son-in-law's name? He has the Jesus Image show, and they say not to make any image of anything in heaven or on earth. That would include Yeshua HaMashiach. Don't make any images of him, because you've never seen him. You don't know what he looks like. The pictures that you've seen are of one of the Renaissance painters. His gay boyfriend looks like the blue-eyed, blonde-haired Jesus that you guys are following after. So, this is Chris Reed. That's his ring. This is the Jerusalem cross that is on his ring. This is a Freemason symbol. Just like all of these other crosses are Freemason symbols. There's nothing connected to Yeshua that has to do with these kinds of crosses. The Samaritans used an arrangement of lines as a symbol for both star and God. The linear 8-point star represents the goddess Inanna, Sumerian queen of the heavens, Ishtar, Astarte, the Babylonian goddess known as the light bringer. An 8-pointed star enclosed with a circle as a symbol for the sun god. The Babylonian star is the core and the archetype of subsequent astrology. This is from WordPress. This is how you would find it. Worship and warfare. See the flaming heart? See the crossed swords? Kingdom cadence. We believe now is the season to come back to the prophetic worship roots of Morning Star as we press into what God has for us in the new season. Morning Star Ministries with an 8-pointed star inside of a circle with the Masonic Phoenix inside. Notice how Morning Star's church is set on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pillars. Shekinah. For an entrance. formerly the Grand Hotel.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to our series on the Hebrew Revelation, James and Jude. This is session number 2. Who is the morning star? Yeshua or Hasatan? Jesus or Satan? So, let's start with Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12 to 14. It says, "Shining morning star, how have you fallen from the heavens? You said to yourself, I will make myself like the Most High." Now, some people say, no, this is just the king of Babylon. This doesn't refer to Satan. Look at the context. How have you fallen from the heavens? The king of Babylon did not fall from the heavens. It's pretty clear if you read the whole context here that this talks about Hasatan, Satan, as the morning star. And then the same Bible, in the New Testament, in Revelation 22 verse 16, it says, I, Jesus, I, Yeshua, am the root and the offspring of David, the bright morning star. So isn't that a serious contradiction? Because on the one hand, Satan is the morning star. On the other hand, Yeshua is supposedly the morning star. How do you explain this contradiction? Some people say, well, the King James Version solves the problem. So let's read the King James Version of Isaiah chapter 14. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And so these people say, no, but the King James Version doesn't call Satan the morning star. It only calls him Lucifer, and everyone knows Lucifer is a name or title used for Satan. Well, did you know that the Latin word Lucifer is just a name for the morning star? That's all Lucifer means. Lucifer means in Latin the morning star. For example, even in the New Testament, in 2 Peter, where it talks about the morning star, the Latin New Testament says, until Lucifer arises in your hearts, because that's the Latin word for morning star. So the King James Version does not solve the contradiction at all. So let's also look at the Hebrew text of Isaiah chapter 14. It says, Eich nafalta mishamayim, how have you fallen from heaven? Halel ben Shachar. Halel literally means shiner, and then it adds an explanation, ben Shachar, son of the morning. Ben or son here is just an idiom. We know that Isaiah often uses archaic poetic language. And so all this means is shiner of the morning. And in the context of falling from heaven and saying, I will rise up above the stars of El. It's pretty clear in context that the morning shiner here refers to the morning star. And that is why basically all translations of the Bible will translate this either as day star, morning star, or Lucifer. And these are just various terms or names for the same thing, for the morning star. And the morning star said, Edamele Elyon, I will make myself like the Most High. And now we have this problem where Yeshua and Hasatan have the same title in most Bibles. They're both called the morning star. Okay, now in Revelation chapter 22 verse 16, in the Greek version, Yeshua says, I'm the morning star. Even if we translate that back into Hebrew, it does not solve the problem. So here's the Franz Danish translation of Revelation 22:16. Ani Yeshua, I Yeshua, Anochi shoresh David v'toladoto. I am the root of David and his genealogy. Kochav Noga Hashachar, the star of the brightness of the morning. In plain English, the bright morning star. So even though in Revelation it is written in very plain language, and in Isaiah we see poetic language, it really means the same thing. Morning star. Is Yeshua the morning star, or is Satan the morning star? In the Greek Revelation, there are two references to the morning star. Let's talk about these first, and then last of all we'll talk about the verse in 2 Peter, which also references the morning star. So Revelation 2 verse 28, translated from Greek, and it talks about he who overcomes so and so and so, I will also give him the morning star. Do you want the morning star? If you overcome, you want Lucifer, Satan? How do you explain this? How much sense does it make? He who overcomes, I will give him the morning star. And then in Revelation 22:16, translated from Greek, I, Yeshua, I, Jesus, am the root and the offspring of David, the bright morning star. So, according to the Greek Revelation, Yeshua claimed, I am the bright morning star. Is that really true? Is Satan the shining morning star? Or is Yeshua the shining morning star? How do you explain this contradiction? Is there any insight that we can gain from the Hebrew version of Revelation? So remember, at HebrewGospels.com, we offer a complete translation and Hebrew transcript of a Hebrew manuscript of Revelation that proved to be authentic. In other words, this is not a translation from Greek back into Hebrew. Rather, this preserves the original Hebrew text. So, can we find any insight from the original Hebrew text of Revelation? Look what it says here in chapter 2. Uchmo shekibalti me'avi, and as I received from my Father, kach eten lo hashachar, so I will give him the light, or the morning light. You see, this word shachar on its own does not mean morning star. It just means morning or morning light. And it's also used as a synonym of glory, because in Hebrew, light and glory are sometimes interchanged. And you can also see this in our translation of the Hebrew Gospel of John, where Yeshua uses light to mean glory. So let me just show you, in the Old Testament and in the prophet Isaiah, this Hebrew word shachar is used positively, and it doesn't mean morning star. This verse says, to the Torah and to the testimony, if they do not speak according to this word, it is because they have no light. The Hebrew word for light here is shachar. So the converse would be that those who do speak according to the Torah and the testimony will have light, because those who don't speak according to the Torah and the testimony do not have light. So you see, there's no problem if it says, he who overcomes, I will give him shachar, I will give him light or glory or something of the like. It does not mean morning star at all. It doesn't say kochav hashachar, it just says hashachar, I will give him the light. Okay, now let's look at the second and the most important verse here in Revelation, where in the Greek version, Yeshua supposedly claimed, I am the bright morning star. What does it say in the Hebrew version? It says here, Ani Yeshua, I Yeshua, wa ani shoresh mimishpechot David. Even I am the root of the families of David, and does not exist in the Hebrew revelation. So just to show you that this really is so, let's have a look at the Hebrew manuscript. So this is the translation that anyone can download from HebrewGospels.com/revelation, and it includes photos of the translated folios of this manuscript of Revelation. So let's now go to Revelation chapter 22 in this manuscript. Let's zoom in and move over to the last chapter. There you can see Perek Kaf Bet, that's chapter 22. And now we need to read in verse 16. It says, Ani Yeshua shalachti malachi, I Yeshua sent my messenger, leharot la'aida, to show the assembly, wa ani shoresh mimishbechot David, even I am the root of the families of David. And then verse 17 starts, wa ruach wa kala amru bo, and the Spirit and the bride say, come. So very clearly, the Hebrew revelation does not say that Yeshua claimed, I am the bright morning star. This phrase is not here in the Hebrew revelation at all. So let's just go back to this verse in Isaiah chapter 14. Take note, it doesn't say that Satan called himself the morning star. This is a prophecy that Elohim gives through the prophet Isaiah, and he calls Satan Halel ben Shachar, the shiner of the morning, or the shining morning star. And the morning star said, according to Isaiah, according to this prophecy, Edamel Elyon, I will make myself like the Most High. And one of the ways in which Satan tries to do this is he managed to get Yeshua the same title in the Greek New Testament that he received in the Hebrew Old Testament. This is in the Greek New Testament that Satan and Yeshua now have the same title. Now Yeshua is also the morning star. Can you believe this? However, in the Hebrew revelation, there is no mention of the morning star at all. Now let's also talk about this verse in 2 Peter. And it talks about the prophetic word, to which you will do well to pay attention as to a lamp shining in a dark place until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts. This is the verse where the Latin New Testament says Lucifer rises in your hearts, because that's the Latin word for morning star. So, because of the mistranslation in Revelation chapter 22, people think they know that Yeshua is the morning star, and then they assume, oh, this is until Yeshua comes up in our hearts. But Yeshua never said that he is the morning star. And, by the way, it doesn't make sense to say that we need to pay attention to the prophetic word until the morning star, or Lucifer, comes up in our hearts. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, here's an example of a Hebrew manuscript of the New Testament. The Cambridge University Library 00.1.32, and it contains a lot of books of the New Testament. Most of these are not authentic, they're just copied from the Aramaic Peshitta into Hebrew, but some of these books are interesting. And we have actually translated James and Jude from this manuscript, and that's available at HebrewGospels.com. So let's see what it says here in 2 Peter 1 verse 19 in this manuscript. It says, Ad sheba yom, until the day comes, Wahashachar Allah bilvavchem, and the morning arises in your hearts. The Hebrew word shachar does not mean morning star. And you know what? In this particular case, even the Ginsburg translation of the New Testament managed to solve the contradiction, because he also translated Shachar rather than Kochav HaShachar. So they actually managed to solve this contradiction just by translating the Greek New Testament back into Hebrew. But the previous two verses that we just looked at in Revelation cannot be solved by translating the Greek text back into Hebrew. They are only solved by the original Hebrew text of Revelation. So, to sum up, Isaiah chapter 14 clearly refers to Satan as the morning star, even in the King James Version, because that's what Lucifer means. The Hebrew New Testament, and especially the Hebrew Revelation, makes no mention of Yeshua being the morning star. So, therefore we can conclude, based on the Hebrew Tanakh and based on the Hebrew New Testament, especially the Hebrew Revelation, that Yeshua is not the morning star. Yeshua is not Lucifer. I hope you found this interesting. In the next session, we want to look at more examples of mistranslation in the Greek version of Revelation, where the Hebrew version of Revelation quotes directly from the Old Testament. So until next time, Shalom in Yeshua Mashiach.